There is a guy who made a video about, the rules or tips for van life. He made it basically his rules, his top 10 rules for van life. And I think he's super wrong about them. A bunch of them he's wrong about. Maybe one or two he's correct. I've been on the road 3 years almost, a little bit more than 2.5, and I feel the rules are totally different. Number one is safety. You want to be safe, because I spoke to a lot of people that got robbed. That it didn't happen to me because I already planned up front. How I deal with this. So number one is safety, and I would say the most important safety consideration is you don't park publicly in or around cities. It doesn't matter whether it's North America, whether it's Europe. I'm in Europe. I've never van lifed outside of Europe, but that's just an absolute given. So you also don't park on highway. I don't know what they're called in other countries, but it's basically when you have a highway that you have these like rest places. That's also, you don't overnight there. That's no go. Especially not in France, but it's in general, it's a no go. The best place if you want to visit, if you want to visit, cities, then buy, a parking, a camping grounds, like official camping grounds where you pay, I don't know, 20 euros upwards per night. Because there you have cameras, maybe you even have a swimming pool, and you can just leave it there and it's going to be safe. So, I personally don't visit cities. I've no interest in them. Sometimes small villages. But usually, if there's a village that has a kind of like a sightseeing thing with it, like a castle or something in France, say, you usually have an official parking space with that as well, and enough people park there during the day that nobody will try to enter your van. But you also can have a lot of deterrents. Like, I watched an interview with a professional burglar once, and professional burglar. I guess it's a successful burglar. It's a burglar is a professional burglar. Um, there's tons of deterrents that you can have. Make it as complicated for them as possible, or as unsure as possible, because they're just gonna pick the easy target. Um, One of the best things that I did is I have chains in the back, on the side, and the doors at the front, which are from the inside. And those you can use to make sure that even if they were to lockpick or break a glass window, that they cannot easily enter anyway. So basically they would have to make some noise, and then also still need a couple of minutes to get in to check what's going on. And it would be much 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 harder with the chain being in place. So that's a good one. A lot of stickers like dog on board, or CCTV surveillance, whatever, GPS tracking. I have that all over the place except for the dog sticker. You can even have a dog sticker, although you don't have a dog. So that's a huge deterrent, because burglars hate dogs. They're trying to avoid this. So that's point number one. Point number two, not doable for everyone, is let go of the idea that you need other people around you. That was also in his points, but for me it's a little bit different. It's not, learn to be alone is great. You're gonna learn that anyway as a van lifer, but I would go even further. I would say The best spots are where nobody is. Um, because most people, it's not like they don't necessarily know about these spots, but there's two reasons. One is they cannot get there because usually they have two big rigs. So some kind of a little bit more remote spot is not doable for a larger RV. Anything that's longer than 6.5 meters. Or because it's, kind of off-road kind of terrain, which is a little bit more dangerous, so they're not going to enter there, and those are the best places. The worst thing, in my opinion, is sardine camping, which is basically these camping places. Doesn't matter, it could be also an unofficial place, but they like park all next to each other, and you have the smell, the shit, because most people don't shit into some, toilet. They shit on in nature, and they leave their, stuff everywhere, and their tissues. They use tissues and stuff like that. Most women um, that piss outside, they're gonna have tissues. They're gonna leave them somewhere. You see that on all these hiking trails and stuff. So the further you're away from society, the better. If you are, if you're like me, if you don't enjoy society that much, I do enjoy certain people, but not society in general. So my second point is really find the remote spots, but you have to have the vehicle for that, of course. Number three is have if for van life, if you have just a weekend or a week, it doesn't matter. Have all kinds of tools with you. A bunch of those tools I mean, there's a lot of small things that you need constantly. Scissors, screwdrivers, um, duct tape, super important. Um, and I would even put on a third place. I would say before tools, I would put tools on a fourth place. In third place, I would put um, hiking equipment, and for a different reason. For the reason though is that do a lot of hiking. Camping, van life without hiking is is a huge waste. If you can do it physically, then at least do some walks. If you can't do it physically, but do hiking, because a lot of spots you park, a lot of spots you go to, but you don't. It's happened to me more than many times. Is that I parked somewhere only to and then go hiking. Let's say a week later, I was still at that place, and only to realize that the nature is really fucking beautiful around me. And I wasn't even aware of this because I was always around the car. Uh, on fifth place, we could put something that is probably a lot underrated. Have rubber bands, fitness rubber bands with you, and a yoga mattress, and literally do something every day, or at least every second day. Seventh place, this is a personal favorite now, is drive to places where you can swim. Be it an official camping ground, the ocean. The ocean I don't like that much because you can get unlucky with the ocean and suddenly you drown. Ocean is is harsh nature. Unless you have a surfboard that's protecting you 99% of the time from drowning. But you have public pools. I think using public pools is a great way to keep fit. And so swimming and rubber bands and yoga. And you can have, and if you have a bike rack, which is an apps. Oh, by the way, I maybe should, maybe should change the sorting of of my points. I would even put bike on like the third or second place. You have to have a bike with you. Do not go van lifing without a bike. So you miss the best time ever. Biking is really, really, really awesome and then on the seventh, eighth place, I would say is prepare after a few months being on the road, prepare, plan, kind of like finding a place where you can change stuff of your van life because you're going to realize a lot of things that you want different. And so it would be good to think about like a couple of months into where can I park, where can I go to like a garage or whatever where I can start when I can like work on the van for a month or something like that, just to change things that you realize you don't want them a certain way, or you need to repair things. One of the things, for example, that I have a 2011 van, which is already old in a way, because the bike rack is still a normal bike rack that is where you put the bikes up. Modern bike racks, you can like lift them or like slide them down and unhook the bike very quickly. For me, it takes 20 minutes or 30, yeah, 20 minutes to fasten the bike up there. And I have an e-bike, also a fat bike. I have the fat tires. So I needed to get a different rail on which I heave the bike, and then I need to fasten it, and I need to have, it's about 30 something kilo that I need to lift about shoulder height in order, and then I have, oh, one other thing that I cannot show it to you right now, but it's basically it's a ladder that you can fold, a foldable ladder. It's absolutely amazing. It fits perfectly here under the roof. I've used it many, many, many times. Even if you like want to clean something on the roof, or like the solar panels, or you want to fix the bike in the back. I personally do not use the big gas bottles. I use the small camping gas bottles, and I always buy a bunch of them, like 10 to 20 of them. Usually I have one like for 5 days, 4 to 5 days. So I use these small camper cookers. And the reason I'm doing this is because in Europe, they all have different gas systems. And when you are, let's say, in Central Europe, for example, Germany and France have a different gas system. Even Spain has a different one. So you have to switch adapters and stuff like that. And I don't want to get into this because I think playing around with these gas things in different countries with different adapters has its danger. Friend of mine showed me how a 17-year-old got blown up in a house because of a gas leak. So I just completely leave that and use the normal gas cooker that you have for camping, and bought a more expensive one, and it's perfect. I've you only have one cooker though, but there's larger ones where you can have two, I think, but it's not necessary. I guess if if I were two if I were two people, if somebody would travel with me, it would be good to have two, because you usually want to make rice and say, or potatoes and something to it, so or fish, and you do that separately, say. But I eat mostly only protein now, so I don't mix, say, rice with fish. I only eat fish, for example, and then have some broccoli. So it's, for me, it's a little bit different. And one of the huge, humongous tips that I have is also kitchen tissues. I don't know what they're called. They're like this big. They're like tissues that you can tear off. In the van, absolute lifesaver. Also, extremely important is anything against mosquitoes or flies. The quality of my life has been extremely increased by using this against flies, and then against mosquitoes I have this kind of like tennis racket. So and to be quite honest, if I hadn't gotten these things right from the start, a lot of them, well, this one I got pretty late with the flies, but if I hadn't gotten them very, very early on, I would have probably um, had a worse experience. So, I mean, there's tons of tips and tricks, but one of the things is like if you really want to be off grid and really live with your van, like van life off grid style, I really recommend like 400 watts on the roof. But it depends also what you're doing. Like if you're working on the computer, yeah, definitely. And lithium batteries with like at least like 200 upwards ampere hours. I have gel batteries and I have 85 twice, and it's not enough a lot of times. But I also have Starlink. Do I recommend Starlink as for van life? It depends. See, in Europe, you have good connection pretty much everywhere. But if you only use it for text files and stuff like that, you don't need it. If for downloads, also LTE normal standard mobile data plans are enough, unless you do video uploads or streaming. If you do video uploads or streaming, I recommend the Starlink because there you're completely unlimited. So I usually run both. I have an LTE plan, a monthly unlimited, but which is mostly like for navigation, or if Starlink doesn't work, if Starlink is not set up, it works all the time, but it's not set up, or if I don't have power. Like it happened to me a lot of times where at night I didn't have power anymore. I then would use my LTE connection, or when I'm driving, for updated maps, I'm using LTE. So Starlink is nice, but if you get Starlink for your RV, plan it before you drive off a long time, because I bought it on the road, and I'm not able to do really any modifications to the van, and you have to like figure out how you do this. I have a window which luckily Starlink fits through perfectly. So I just every time I put it up or down. But it's annoying because Starlink takes a lot of space, and I have to leave it here somewhere. So it's a little bit annoying. But if you plan it to mount it to some kind of rig, and plan it accordingly, I think then which I think is tough to do, but there are YouTubers I think who will show you how to do this. Then you're golden as well. Um, then also take less stuff with you than you think you need. It means you will need a lot of tools and stuff, and you will need a lot of things. But let's say, for example, clothing. Clothing takes, volume wise, my most amount of space, and I have a tough time getting rid of some clothing. It's not that I'm emotionally attached to it, it's more like I just use a lot of different ones. Um, it's very, it's very like the quality of van life drops immensely if you have too much shit in your van, and this is what my problem is. I would say even that's one of my biggest problems. There's another problem which you might not have, is the water tank, which is 100 liters, is below my bed in the back, and I cannot sleep there because I'm hypersensitive in general, and I'm water sensitive. That means any water below the bed is a problem for me. I notice it's just not even under the bed; it's also under the car. So if I'm in places where there's a lot of water in the ground, I have trouble sleeping. But Next to rivers is fine sometimes. Uh, when it depends. Like there's areas where it's a problem. It really depends. Um. So. Oh, there's so many small things I recommend. Like don't have your bed high up. Have it low because it will be your chill place. Where you kind of use it as a couch as well. Um. Then showering. Oh my god, you don't need a shower. You don't need a shower inside. That's one thing that I've realized, which I wasn't aware of when I started. You don't need a shower inside. So you want to have a rig. You want to be sure that you can set it up that you can shower outside. You can have. I do have a water heater. I don't use it because it's gas driven. I could use it, but I just go Wim Hof and just shower outside no matter what. But there's often a week where I go without a shower. I don't care. But on the camping grounds, it's easy. Just on the camping grounds, I just shower every day, like the public showers. Uh, what else? Um, I'm trying to think of the bigger things. Okay, make sure you take care of your car, of course. Like check the oil and stuff like that. Naturally, but I had an ex girlfriend once. She drove with a motor that where there was no oil in it. It was almost gone. It was like there was no oil anymore. It was I think it was like 50 kilometers more, and her car would have the motor would have completely broken. Um, yeah, so you want at least once a year get your car serviced, just to check, you know, the basics like brakes, oil, whatever is needed. Um, oh, one huge advice: don't get yourself, and this is super important. No matter what situation you're in traffic, don't let yourself get stressed. Even if the people are honking, take an extra time. Use it as a signal to take even more time because I made 3 accidents in 3 years. Not big accidents, but and it was every time it was like a stressed situation, and while it's not rocket science to manage a Fiat Ducato 6-meter vehicle, a lot of people do this in their normal work. In stress situations, especially if you have to go backwards, you can get expensive if you destroy another car. Because usually, to you, not that. If you have a bigger car, usually there's nothing like much that happens to you, but you destroy other people's shit. Like, or just be careful. And I try to avoid rush hours. So anytime there's like after work or when people commute, or around cities, I try to avoid driving. I don't drive at nights or when I'm tired. That's a rule. I don't even drive when it's raining. That's a rule. And oh, there's one other thing is be realize the limits of your car, because I had to be um towed out of a place where I was stuck in the mud, and I really recommend to know the limits of your car, kind of like getting to know them little by little, because getting stuck somewhere outside where there's no help, that's gonna be hard. especially if you're not prepared. One of the things I really recommend for preparation, have filters, even backup water filters, because there was a situation where I was in the Pyrenees where there wasn't even mobile connection. There was absolutely zero connection. It was really hot. It was like 40 degrees, whatever. And but there was a river next to it. And if I needed, I could have just used my two I have like two separate water filters which are for hiking. So in the case that something happens, I at least have water. What I do have also, it's not necessary. It's I wouldn't get it again, but it's good to have it now. It's a signal amplifier for LTE for 4 frequencies. So basically, when I'm in the mountains and I don't receive a signal, I mean I can use Starlink, right? But if say I couldn't use Starlink for some reason, let's say there's, I don't know, like too many trees, whatever, I can use and I've used it two one time, definitely two times, the signal booster, where I just make like a fake antenna and 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 just put it on top of the roof, and I get signal again for emergencies, whatever. But I think much these are like stupid things, you don't need them. But you definitely want to have pepper spray. That goes with the first thing, that being safe. You want to have a knife. Or what you can also have is a flashlight, which blinds the attacker or the person. It's very, very practical because it's very disorienting. You can have a sound device where when you pull the plug, it makes like huge decibel noise. It's also good, especially as a woman. I would have that. You know, the interesting thing is for women van lifers, a lot of them have dogs, but I see it as a good and a negative. The good thing is you have a companion. I don't like it. I don't like dogs. I like cats, but I don't even want a companion. It would be in such a small place, the hygiene and everything. I don't want that. Good dogs, after after rain, dogs stink as hell. I don't want them in my van. I don't even have the space. And the so the benefit is protection, right? Even when you go hiking, it's dogs will protect you from whatever. It's but so for women that makes a lot of sense with the dog, but it has a huge drawback. That really awesome guys like me, maybe when women see this, they're like, I definitely get a dog to get to not get to know people like me. I think dogs, just like I had neighbors yesterday here with a dog that barked every 2 minutes. It's really fucking annoying. Like, I remember I met a woman once, and she was interested in Tantra. She saw my van, I still had the Tantra sticker on it, and we got to talk by coincidence, and she was like, hey, I'm interested in Tantra, can we do a session? So we did a session, and we did also where the dog was, we did like an energy kind of like thing, and the dog was next to it, and it was just annoying the whole fucking time. The dog was annoying, and he was afraid of other dogs, so he would bark all the time. And for me at that point, it was like women with dogs are absolute no-go. You can't, I mean, there's women be like, yeah, if the guy doesn't like dogs, fuck him, he's probably something wrong with him. No, I think that actually people, this is gonna sound harsh, but I think people who like pets but dislike living with them are actually the better people. Because sounds horrible to say that because there's so many pet owners, but I think that dogs are actually like their rhythm. Any type of animal has a different rhythm than you have. than humans have, sleeping cycles, everything. It's not really good for you in a lot of ways. And it's also a way to not work on your shit, like your traumas and stuff. It's like an easy way out. And that's why a lot of women that have dogs are traumatized because they never worked on, or not cleared from their trauma because they never worked on it. Yeah, but that's not a van life tip or trick. Um, I was thinking about something else. It depends. Most people are not solo van lifers. Most people go as two people or more. Um, I think maybe one of the best advices I can give also is listen to Muji and Eckhart Tolle when you're on the road, because you'll learn to accept being alone and realize that you're not even alone. The loneliness is only in your mind, and it's something that can be let go and accepted. Um, I think that's what's the most difficult for most people, the loneliness kind of. I think that's I think that's the major question that I think people, don't you get lonely? I think that's the most asked question that I've been given. Um, I think it comes a little bit also from the fact, for me at least, that the people around me are not spiritual or interested in spirituality, or so even if there are people next to me, I find, for example, a lot of van livers or people who travel in RVs, they have they seem weird, like they have some kind of problems, and they're not just different like I'm different, but a lot of them are, I shouldn't say weird, but for example, I met a lot of people who do van life for a while, not for a long time, but for a while, like for extended vacation, because they're maybe sick and they're terminally sick and they still want to enjoy life a little bit. So that's their way to do this. Um, and let's just say society. Let's just say this differently. Society is crazy, and van life is just as much. So when you meet them, they're probably just as crazy as anybody from the city, basically. It's not that much different. It's not like you're meeting like lovable hippies when you're van lifing. Um, Especially not in Europe. Um, I actually find that most of them are quite. Mm, I don't know how to say this. Let's just leave it. Anyway, so social aspect is difficult. Depends on who you are. Now there's some people who visit festivals and things, and I think that's really great. Like when you, because there's all kinds of like meanings. Let's say in France in the summer you have so many different festivals and stuff, which is absolutely fantastic if you like that. I'm a more introvert. I don't like it that much. Flea markets, those kind of things, Saturday markets, awesome, awesome, awesome. But that's where you can get a break in. So it's difficult to, I guess, don't leave valuables in the car. Um, which is difficult to do if you're a van lifer, because you might have a notebook, like a computer, electronics, whatever. You cannot take everything with you. Um, I use the app Park for Night mostly. Oh, one biggie. Be super careful where these navigation um, apps where they, direct you. Got to be super careful where they direct you because that can lead into many problems like inability to get out of there, mud, um, accidents, all kinds of things. Yeah. Um, so you have to use not only the map, but you have to use the visual cues and get an idea. Is this something I can do? Is this really doable? For example, some people are super naive. I met girls, two lesbians in some place in the nature in the mountains, and I was like, "Hey guys, do you know if it's gonna rain?" I didn't check the weather. I could have checked the weather, and I was like, "Dude, girls, do you know what?" And they're like, "I don't know." It's like, yeah, because where we are standing, if it starts raining, we're not getting out. And they was like, it's we're on grass. It's gonna be fine. Super naive. They didn't know, and their car was not. It wasn't as heavy as mine, but it, it would have had the same problem. It wasn't a four-wheel drive, 4x4. And is it called 4x4 or four-wheel drive? All-wheel drive. All-wheel drive, I think it's called. Um. So yeah, you gotta be thinking about where you're standing. Um. I think the most annoying thing in van life, literally the most fucking annoying thing is when you're standing somewhere, you pick the place, and you're super happy, and you're content, and then fuckers drive next to you. Come, I mean, it's just. Say for example, you're standing at a beach, you have the perfect view, it's awesome, it's great, and then suddenly at 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock morning, some young dudes with loud music and drunk show up. Jesus fuck, it happened to me more than once, and I just fucking hate it. I just fuck. This is literally the worst because you're enjoying, like, you're like, yes, and then you have these fuckers with the loud music and the alcohol, and plus they're dangerous. They're high testosterone. They're unhappy usually, and I've heard even situations where these people, they threw like stones onto the RVs and stuff, just like for kicks, for fun, or they scream to wake them up just for fun. And it's completely stupid. What I do in that situation, and I've learned this, I immediately pack things up. Like the moment something like that happens, I immediately pack things up and I search for different parking space because it's not worth it to anger yourself the whole night. It's literally not, even if it's 1 o'clock, I'll just pack up everything and drive off. You got to be careful then when driving. Don't be upset that you have to do it, but that's one of the biggest also tips I can give. Immediately drive off. Don't even waste your time with them. And I mean, there's a lot of strange. I met a real, like, forget it. And have different type of clothing, of course. I love hoodies. Hoodies are extremely practical in van life. I have, a huge one, Crocs. Have a pair of Crocs. You're gonna use it a lot of times. Because not everywhere you want to be barefoot. Crocs are a lifesaver. And what else? I think it's good to have a hobby. Also, it's not necessary. I mean, it could be the hiking, it could be YouTubing, anything that you kind of enjoy doing. Um, the fitness, the bike. I feel van life without the bike would really suck. Yeah. And I see people that do van life without a bike. I don't get it. Let me see. Any other tip I have for you? If you can afford it, I would switch it up from time to time. Take an Airbnb or something. It's also a good way to see if you really like van lifing or not. Because after 3 months, usually after 3 or 4 months, I'm like, I want to switch it up. I need a little bit more comfy. I want to have permanent shit place and shower. So I'll take an Airbnb and that's pretty neat. I would go even so far that sometimes taking a hotel where you are taken care of, but not just any hotel, maybe like a wellness hotel, something special to it. Yeah, something where you really bought. Yeah. In terms of meeting people, I think it's hard to say, but I think yoga classes is a good place. But then you have to stay there a little bit longer. You could do twice a week yoga classes and stay at some kind of village where it's being offered. That's a possibility. But I haven't really gotten around to do that. I've done retreats. I wouldn't do retreats because retreats are people that come usually from far away into that place to then have some special experience. I would just take a local yoga studio. Much more interesting. Actually, I did that for a while, and that was pretty good. So you definitely meet girls there. I just remembered something stupid that I said to a woman when I was. This is something super funny. Like, as a man, a woman hit on me in a yoga studio, and I completely budged it because I said something stupid. But it was just I like a week later I realized it was just stupid, and the chance was blown. Although she doesn't even know me, it's pretty strange. Okay, and oh, air conditioning. If you're going to be in the summer and you can't afford an Airbnb or something, you have to have air conditioning. I mean, depends on the summer. 30 degrees is doable, but anything above it, if you're if you parked in the shadow, in like a shadow. But yeah, air conditioning, you have to have something, ventilator, air conditioning, parked in the shadow of a tree, sombra, or have professional air conditioning. But then you need a camping place because you need high powered electricity, or you have the lithium with the 400 watts. Then you can run it for like 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon, where it's like usually between 2 and 5. It's the warmest. I think have a good electrical system, of course, and a lot of backup options. I do have, for example, the EcoFlow with me, and I've not used it that many times, but when I used it, it was really practical to have it. It's basically like a mobile battery that you can charge with solar or whatever. And but I use my inverter with the batteries in the van. But when there's any kind of problem, I can fall back on the EcoFlow. So when I'm standing super off grid and suddenly I have, the normal electrical system doesn't stops working, I can use the EcoFlow for emergency. Oh yeah, and something else. You have to have, absolutely have to have a cooling box. either a refrigerator or a cooling box. Without it, um, I did a while without it. It's completely shit. Like, you definitely want to have a large enough cooling box. And mine, unfortunately, is Bluetooth, so I have Bluetooth on all the time. It doesn't, you cannot shut down the Bluetooth. And I decided to buy a new one which doesn't have Bluetooth. And I think that's it for now. Be adventurous. Try to find places that nobody else finds, and then you're gonna have and do hiking. If you combine those things, you're gonna be good.